Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the Magento Fireside Chat. Today we have Vinai and me showing you a little bit about some different test tools. Basically, this Fireside Chat is a follow-up of the last one we did, where we chatted a little bit about the different ways of testing Magento projects. And at the end of the last Fireside Chat, we thought about, well, it would be nice to look at some of the tools a little bit more in detail. And luckily, there were a lot of people who agreed on showing a tool in a little bit more in detail. And now Vinai and I are actually starting, and this series is probably going to be another 4 or 5 episodes with other tools being shown. So I'm going to start with Selenium testing using a tool called Menta. And after I'm done, Vinai will take over and show us a little bit about PHP unit testing and especially mocks, using mocks in unit tests. Okay, so the idea of these fireside chats is there won't be like a fancy presentation. It's more like showing you actually how things work, looking a little bit into code, and so yeah, inspiring you to basically do a little bit more research and go back and watch the video and try to find out what we did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen now. Oh yeah, so first thing, feel free to ask questions whenever you want. We have people, yeah, here Alan, David, and James and Lee will look at your questions, and after we're done with our main presentation, we plan some time on discussing these questions with you. So the question and answer tool in Google Plus should be enabled. Just feel free to shout out questions, and we will try to address them. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and yeah. So what I'm going to show you is basically this test tool called Menta that we developed at AOE. Menta is a tool that sits on top of another tool called PHP Web Browser that was originally developed by Facebook. And Menta basically is the missing bit, because PHP Web Browser is only a very thin layer on top of the Selenium API, but it's basically not sufficient to conveniently write tests. And here's Menta that tries to fill that gap. So I'm quickly show you how easy it is to get started. We have a sample project on GitHub that basically is already ready to go and comes with a test. That sample project was created for Magento 1.9 and earlier, but now with Magento 1.8 and earlier, with Magento 1.9, with the new responsive theme and new sample data, basically almost every test of the original sample project will fail, because those sample projects are very specific to the front end, obviously, to the markup. So I just branched that to Mage 1.9 and created 2 sample tests that are that show you how things work with Magento 1.9 and obviously also with the enterprise version 1.14. So yeah, just clone this repository, and there is a composer JSON file here that basically pulls in everything you need, and that is the basic Magento framework, and then there is the Menta framework, and then there is a component concept built in Menta. So there are some Magento-specific components providing page objects for cart and checkout and customers and so on, and some general components with some helper methods too. So basically, this is everything we need, and we can use Composer to get started. Yeah, so I already prepared that, so I'm going to cancel that, and we can have a look at this here. So after running Composer install, we have everything we need, including, so by the way, Composer is also part of that repository, so you basically don't need anything else besides that repository. It comes with PHP unit, and it's the tests live in the test folder, and everything else lives in the vendor folder. So I'm going to switch to to PHP Storm, where I'm basically I pulled in this project already, and so here we can see the basic folder structure. And so this project lives on a virtual box, on a Vagrant box here on my computer. But it's like a Ubuntu server installation only. But Selenium, basically, what Selenium does is remote controlling a browser. So we need, unless we want to like fake that environment, we actually need a Windows or another X Windows system to do that. And so that's why I basically run Selenium on my host. And running Selenium is super easy. It's a Java-based tool. So you download the Selenium jar file from the Selenium page, and I always wrap that in this simple bat file that allows me to easily start that. If you want to test another browser besides Firefox, you might need to use extra drivers. So this is an example on how to use the Chrome driver to do browser testing with Chrome. So I'll just start that, and you can see this is a Java tool that starts running, and it starts listening to port 4444. So what we can do now is we can like verify it's running by like directly pressing that, and you can see this is web driver, so Selenium basically responding, and you can create manually a session here. Let's start a Firefox browser, and you will see a Firefox session pop up soon. Yeah, here we go. Here's the Firefox session started, and here's a separate Firefox window. So basically, this is now manually remote controlling Selenium, but of course, we want to script that and put that into into a unit test, basically. So I'm not planning on showing a lot of slides, but only this one or two slides here. Usually when I start showing slides and presentations, most of the feedback I get afterwards is about the slides and not about the content. So that's why I want to keep that to this one slide only. This is basically showing the very simple architecture of this whole concept of Selenium testing. So we have here, we have our application here that we want to test, that's our Magento store or any other web application. And we have our test stack here. Whatever that is, we will look into this in detail in a second. And basically this uses the Selenium API, which is basically a REST API over HTTP, to remote control the Selenium server, which in turn does HTTP calls to your browser by basically remote controlling the browser. So Selenium remote controls your browser, and that does HTTP requests to your application. So there is no direct access between your tests and Magento, even though there could be if they run on the same server. They're not supposed to read any like internal state of the Magento app. So it's basically a real black box test. You remote control Magento doing your test as if a visitor would do. So you cannot read the state of an order or whatever directly by looking it up into the database. So let's find out what this box actually is. So from bottom to top, we use PHP Web Browser, which is this tool created by one guy from Facebook, which claims to be a very thin layer on top of the Selenium REST API. So this really is showing is doing the raw level commands to move the mouse to find an element to click on that. But when you create tests, you want an abstraction on top of that, because otherwise you would have to deal with lots of browser-specific things all the time. And that's where Menta that's the role that Menta fulfills. So Menta is basically an abstraction layer that makes writing unit tests a lot easier. But basically Menta only is a wrapper on top of PHP WebDriver. So then Menta has a concept of using different component libraries. So you might have something like a reusable component library, like generic Magento components, like for cards and so on. But then you will probably also need some project-specific components, because your card might look a little bit different and might have different markup. So your component would kind of rewrite the original component, very similar to Magento's rewrites and extending classes to basically customize the generic component to fit your project. and then everything here, Menta basically runs inside a regular PHP unit test case, and then of course your tests are regular PHP unit test cases, and they're project specific too. Okay, so that's it with the slides. Let's go back to the code. So yeah, one other thing to mention here. What I like doing is in my VM, I always create a host name called VM host that points to my basically host system where Selenium is running. So the test case doesn't need to know about the IP address. I always just address it with VM host. So let's look at the different parts of the sample project. We have this configuration file here, and so this configuration file also supports environment variables, which allows you to add that to Jenkins and to have different variants tested. But basically, this is the bare minimum configuration file that is a PHP unit, a classic PHP unit configuration file. Menta comes with a nicer result printer for a command line that allows you to see what's going on. PHP unit by default only shows you these dots. And here's where you control the Selenium server URL. So here again is the VM host, and this is how you talk to your local Selenium server. Of course, you can use a remote Selenium server too. There's, for example, Sauce Labs offers a great service for Selenium, but it's kind of nice, especially during development, actually watching the Selenium server doing what it's doing instead of like Sauce Labs provides videos or so, but it's still not the same experience, especially while actually creating the test. Then here you specify the browser, and this is basically the configuration, configuration of the original URL. With Selenium 2, you're free to navigate away from that, so you can use that as an entry point, but then switch to your Gmail account to test if an email is coming in or whatever. That wasn't possible with Selenium 1, but yeah, that's possible now. And now here there are two listeners that will print a nice report for you. So usually we only have one listener here, but I actually want to show you both flavors of reports that we have. So I'm registering two different listeners, and I will show you how the reports look like after we ran the test. So let's just create a new test real quick. Demo. And that would be, let me steal that from here. Demo. And yeah, so basically now this is a regular PHP unit test case. So this test case abstract is only like a helper method. I think it's a best practice to always have something like that in place. And that again extends from Menta PHP unit test case Selenium 2. And this basically only injects some Selenium specific things to a regular PHP unit test case, like handling the session and providing some helper methods there. So let's create a demo test. Add test, and here get helper common open slash, and let's do a sleep so we can actually see what's happening here. So if I run this test now, bin PHP unit, I tell it what configuration to load, so it's the configuration demo ff VM host, and then here I'm running this individual tests demo test. There is a helper class in Menta that will scan the whole directory for all files that end in test.php. So you can execute your whole test suite without having to think about the test suite creator, because that's already there. So let's do that. And now this actually is the verbose printer that Menta offers instead of the dots. So actually you can use that with PHP unit even outside Selenium testing. And now, yeah, so that was I was talking too long. So let's do it again, and we can see a new window pop up here, and it loaded the home page, and now it waits 10 seconds because I told it so, and then it will close it again. So I mean that's far away from being a test, but yeah. So that's the basic yeah, how to handle how to remote control the browser. Now, of course, in a test case, you would want to interact with the website. So you would want to find elements, hover them, click on them. You would want to read text on an element to make assertions if something is there or something's not there. You would want to find out if an element is there or not there. All this is part of what Menta provides. So, for example, and addressing elements can be done in a number of different ways. Basically the I think the most powerful ways of doing that is addressing them via a CSS locator or via an XPath locator. So, for example, let's look at this menu item here. It's so let's say this is an A that contains the text men. And so let's say we want to move our mouse here to take a screenshot of this submenu here. So we could go this get helper common, get element, and now back here. How did that here? Yeah. So basically now here I'm using the XPath locator that says find the nav element, find the link that says men here. And then with this element, I can go and this get helper common, move helper common, move to this element. And let's leave for 5 seconds so we can see that happening. And now let's say we want to take a screenshot of this. Take screenshot, menu, men. So let's run this, see what's happening. See, the menu now is open. And yeah, waiting for 5 seconds. So now you actually saw one of the common mistakes. Selenium is actually remote controlling your browser, but if you start interacting with the browser while Selenium is remote controlling that, you will have an impact on the outcome of the test result. So basically, the safest thing is to let Selenium do its thing and not interact with it, because now there's a chance that by moving my mouse into the window, close that menu again. But let's look at the report. So those two reports that I mentioned before, just out of convenience, I linked them to the web root of this project, so we can look at them here. Oh, that's not what I was. Play local reports. Oh, 2 H's. So this is basically the report that could be embedded into your Jenkins, and it will tell you all the test cases that ran. And here, if there is an S, it will show you the screenshot that was taken. There is a lot more fancy stuff that you can do with screenshots, like cutting out pieces, drawing on top of that, and also comparing a screenshot from the current build with the previous build. And David is going to show you how this works in one of the next episodes of this Fireside chat. But so far, we have these screenshots here in the test case, and yeah, we can look at that. We can add a description and everything to this to the screenshot, so you can do things. This basically helps you to have another visual check on the outcome of the website. I mean, it's hard to do like real tests with these like looking at the image, but this is basically meant for humans to do like a quick proving of everything is fine by looking at the screenshots. Okay, so this is now basically a very simple test case. I want to show you like another one that I created that basically goes through the whole process of going to the home page, going clicking on a menu to get to a category page, clicking on a product there, adding it to the cart, going through a checkout, and making sure that we can see the order confirmation test page. So I'll just quickly walk you through the test, and then we'll watch it do its thing. So in an ideal world, you would want a fresh session and actually a fresh browser window for every test case you run. But basically, starting up that window usually takes something like between 5 and 10 seconds. And if you have tons of tests, that of course adds a lot of testing time. So one of the workarounds here is instead of actually starting a new browser window, you can basically start up a new session by simply deleting all the cookies, which is usually good enough, and you save a lot of time by doing that. In this specific test case, actually, my different tests are depending on each other. So my next test case continues where my last test case left off. So in this case, I actually don't even want to clean up the previous session. So I set that to false, and like Selenium will without even noticing what's going on, just continue doing the test case. Obviously, those test cases don't run in isolation here, but that's in this situation exactly what I want. To make sure that at least when we start, I have a fresh session. I basically close the session here, forcing it to create a new session here. So here, similar to what we saw before, I'm opening the home page. I'm making sure we can see this title here, and I take a screenshot. So you will see a lot of take screenshot commands here because I basically want to have a good understanding of what the whole website experience looks like in screenshots. So I added lots of these. Then I'm looping, so I commented that out. But basically, what I'm doing here is I'm getting all the menu items and hovering all of them so I can look at all the different submenus. Then I go to the accessories page and to the accessory menu item and click on it. And so that's with this test case. After I'm done here, you can see this depends on this earlier test case. I assume that I am now on the shoes category page. And I take a screenshot here, and then I find this product. I did that demo showing you different ways addressing the elements. In this case, I'm just using this link locator where I'm looking at the actual link text, which is not a super stable thing, but yeah, worth mentioning here. So I click on this product, and then I should go to the product single view. I check if actually I am on that product single view by checking the product name, and I check the price too. I take a screenshot. Then this is a configure product. So here you can see how to select the different values. Take another screenshot and click on the Add to Cart button. Then I should go to the cart. Same thing here. I verify I'm on the cart, and then I click on the Proceed to Checkout button. And now here, the checkout portion is probably the most interesting one. And it looks a little bit bloated because I have all these different take screenshot commands here. But basically what I'm doing, and this is a good example of how the Menta component object works. The Magento component object is basically an abstraction for so-called page objects. So we have a ready-to-use page object for the checkout that comes with helper methods like set checkout methods or finish step, basically allowing you to click the buttons, or doing things like add address. It also comes with an address generator there. Basically, this page object knows about what the checkout is doing and knows about the specifics of the checkout, abstracting from details like the markup, and allowing you basically in a kind of a domain-specific language to write your test case that's a lot more readable. So here we're going through a checkout with the guest method, select the checkout, select the billing address, and so on, go through the whole process here. So let's run this real quick because I'm running out of time. Checkout test, and we can see how this works. So here I'm selecting the shoes. Now I'm selecting this shoe. It's a little fast, but yeah, you get the point. Proceed checkout, filling out the details here, and yeah, selecting the shipping address. And now this takes a while. Yeah, so this is another good example. So the checkout page object has this abstraction to wait for a step being finished. So it actively pulls and to wait until the next follow-up step is appearing. So here's the payment information. Here's the order view. Clicking the place order button, and here's the order has been received. And here we can see the test case being succeeded. And if we now look at the report here, we can see all the different steps broken down into separate test cases, and I can see all the screenshots I took along the way here. And actually, this checkout test had a lot more screenshots. I was also taking screenshots while, like before submitting, so you could, for example, here, you could actually find out how the loader looks like, especially if you want to debug that on different browsers. That might be interesting. And yeah, so this is the one report. Let me quickly show you the other report that's a lot more optimized to looking at the screenshots. So this is basically hiding all the test information, only showing the actual screenshot, the screenshots to look at. So this is meant for humans to consume, and this is basically a simple screenshot gallery. I created a second test case that I quickly want to show you. This is a really simple one. What I'm doing here is I'm using a PHP unit data provider. That's the beauty of Menta using PHP unit, because you can use everything that PHP unit provides. So here is data provider of all the screen sizes, and I'm consuming the screen sizes here in this method. What I'm doing here is I'm telling Selenium to resize the browser window and then open the home page and take a screenshot. And in this case, there is this feature where you can set a different variant. So let's run this test really quick. I mean, this is obviously meant to be to allow you to check how your website looks, how your responsive website looks. And yeah, don't forget, you can easily run all these tests in different browsers. That's a nice thing. So you wouldn't have to go back and do all this testing on different browsers. Selenium can do that for you a lot easier. So now we are iterating through all the different screen sizes, and so there's no resurgence here in those test cases, so we're not checking anything. So these tests will never fail. Yeah, but of course you can obviously easily add some tests here. Let's look at the first report, and we can actually see the different screenshots here, different sizes. One nice thing about this report is there's this duration heat map, which tells you which tests took long or not long to execute. So if you're trying to improve the overall execution time of your test case, you can of your test suite, you can look at this heat map to find out where all the time is going. Okay, so looking at the second report, now this one knows about these screenshots being variants of each other and displays them next to each other. And yeah, so here you can see this is the 1920 by 900 and so on, and basically have a nice side-by-side view of all your responsive flavors of the same website. And you could do that for many different browsers and have a nice big matrix of a good snapshot of how your website looks like in different resolutions in different browsers. Okay, that was a lot of stuff, and I hope you get to play with that. Feel free to ask any questions now or contact me. I'm happy to let you know more about that if you're interested. Okay. Good. That's it from my side.
Awesome. Look great. Thank you, Fabrizio. Guess I'll just jump in. I can't see any questions either, so let's, I'll just get started if that's right.
Yeah, go ahead.
All makes no sense, right? Okay, I think this is a screen I want to share. Okay, good. So my idea was to, let me start differently. So first of all, one of the things people mostly struggle with is actually mocking or stubbing objects. And before I get started, the whole idea of a stub or a mock is to have drop-in replacements during testing, so you can focus on the actual test, on the actual method you want to test, instead of using any kind of, having to deal with a lot of other classes that might need additional setup. This is especially difficult with Magento because Magento instantiates classes all over the place and also uses, they basically violate the lore of Demeter or the principle of least knowledge a lot. So you have these big chains of method calls, which makes it a bit more difficult to use. So my idea here was to take, I got a very small example module, which basically just contains a single rewrite for the order model. And in this order model rewrite, there's a single method, and that is the method send new order email. So this wasn't a task I had to do a couple of times during projects, and the only change to the parent method that I did was added, for example, here, this one line 83, add an additional argument to the template variables to the method, to the email that gets sent. Right? Could be the customer group, like this example, could be something different. Right. So there's no chance to hook into the logic and just add a little bit of custom logic and then delegate to the parent method, like it would be in a perfect ideal world. Because this is kind of nested deep within the method, it's actually necessary to copy the send new order email content from the parent class and replace the content and add your little bit directly inside of it, which is I don't like doing, but in this case it has to be done. So now that I've one other note I just want to add is, so this already exists. Usually I would first start writing the test, etc., and then start implementing. But in this case, the club method already is here. So what I want to do to start with is I want to actually comment out my change. So now it's exactly like the original. And in the test that I want to write is I want to check that this method actually now provides the customer group as a template variable to the mailer. The mailer here is an instance of core email template mailer. It's instantiated right here on line 55. So my test should check that whenever on the order model send new order email is called, it passes in the customer group to the mailer. Right, so how can I do that? And I created a little wrapper here, and this is going to be one example to start with. So the test is it should set the customer group template variables in send new order email. I'll first start by doing this and use PHP unit mocking capabilities. So the mock functionality that's built into PHP unit, which is great, very powerful, but it's kind of difficult and not to read if you're not familiar with it. So I want to do one example using that first, and then I want to move on and use an alternative library called Mockery, which is, some people find it more fluent or easier to express what they want to do using that tool. Right, so my idea here now would be basically I want to get the order. I want to call send new order email, and then I want to confirm, or I want to assert in testing lingo, the customer is set as a template. Okay, now to get the order, I'll simply use mage get model sales order, and this time I won't be testing if this is my actually target replacement class here, if my rewrite is working. So I'm only focusing on this one example. So now I want to call send new order email, And now, how do I check that actually the customer group is part of the template variable? And while I'm doing that, during the test, I want to run it as often as possible. I also actually would like it not to really send the email. I just want to check that it actually adds that additional template variable, right? So I chose this example because it needs quite a bit of work in regards to mocking. So I get a chance to actually show some mock examples here. Okay, so the method that's called is set template params on the mailer instance. The mailer instance is core email template mailer right here on line 55. So my idea would be I want to replace the standard core email template mailer with the dummy class, so-called mock, and I can add functionality to mock to so not this method, these methods that are called on the mailer class won't be the real method from the mailer class, but instead dummy replacement methods. And then I can add kind of tests and assertions to that check that it's actually doing what I want. So to create a mock with PHP unit, I can use this get mock, and then I specify the class, which in this case would be a mage core model email template mailer instance. This will give me a mock mailer instance, which is a class extending from the original class and replacing every single method except for magic methods and constructor and destructor and such with stub methods that return null when they're called. Right. So now mock mailer, this is basically just a little dummy class. So now the next question is how this won't do anything, but I want to now check that set template params actually receives an array, and that array returns a customer group key. You might notice send is another method on mailer, which is now replaced with a dummy method that will simply do nothing and return null. So that's actually a decent side effect that I want to have. So how can I check that set template params now returns what kind of array it receives? And here I'm going to use a little trick. I'm going to use the fact that PHP uses basically passes objects always by reference, and I'm gonna say the mock mailer will, and here's the weird kind of syntax. First, I have to specify, it expects a method call, but I don't start with the method name. I always have to start with the number of times I'm expecting that method to be called. So in this case, it would be once. Okay, so once I want to have the method called set template params. And now there's a lot of different ways I can specify what kind of arguments are expected, if I care about what kind of arguments are expected, what it should return, and so on. But because I now only want to check for a specific part of an argument here, I'll simply call will. Now I can specify the return value, and here PHP capability return callback, where I can pass in a callback method which receives the arguments. So now I could, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use callback function, and I'm going to use the transport item here. And all I'm going to do is on the transport, I'll set the args property to the passed argument. So this will be the argument array that's passed to set template params. And now, after the fact, I can check that this assert contains customer group in transport args. Right now, I can check that actually the customer group key is present in the transport args argument. Or if I want to actually check the name, now I would have to add a little bit of additional logic here. Let's say I'm expecting the default customer group to be set. So my default customer group ID might be mage helper customer get default customer group ID, and the default customer group name is customer group load. So I load the customer and use get code, so I have the customer group name. And on the order model I want to test, I'll say order set customer group ID, default customer group ID, and now I can also check this assert equals default customer group name, transport rx customer group. So basically got my test in place. If everything works correctly, this should give me the expected result. As we'll see, it doesn't quite work out that way yet. So first I'm going to start create a run configuration so I can run the test easily in PHP Storm here, and run it, and we'll see it'll fail, telling me recoverable error argument 1 passed to Mage payment helper data get info block must be an instance of Mage payment model info boolean given. Oh, okay, so let's see where that actually takes place, and this is a part of the is right here. So what this couple of lines do in the send new order email is they will render the payment info block to display payment information. So here we have the payment helper and get info block. Now we expect some kind of payment info item to object to be passed along. So this get payment on the order should return that. Let's see what that does. And oh no, it works on a collection. So what does get payment collection do in turn? Payments is set to a sales order payment collection instance. So now let's go ahead and mock that. So I don't actually have to create payment information. I just want to have a dummy collection here, which returns a dummy sales order payment instance. And so I don't really have to worry about that or work with any real data from the database. Okay, and what I'm going to do in the test is I want to call one method here, this stubbing is compared to mocking means having a replacement class that does it doesn't really check anything. It just, if it's called a method like get, I don't care if that's actually used, a method like get payment collection, but if it's called, it should return something, so it works. Yeah. So first I'll start with creating a stub collection, a stub for the collection. And the collection, as we can see here, is instantiated using Mage get resource model. And every time I instantiate resource models, quite often I have to disable the constructor method on the mock class. Otherwise, I'll have to, because that's where it starts to open the database connection. And I don't really want to deal with real database connections here. I just want to take care I get the expected result from that method. So for that reason, here I'm going to use the get mock builder instance for Mage sales model payment collection. Now I can tell it to disable the original constructor and return the mock class. So I have to use the builder here. I could also use get mock with a long list of argument chains, but that's kind of a nuisance. So how can I now tell Magento to use my stub here instead of the original? Actually, we can do that by using a feature of PHP unit, because ecomdev, which I'm using here. And this will be the only part of ecomdev that I'm using, ecomdev PHP unit. I'll say this replace. Let me see. I don't always know why I don't get autocompletion here. Replace. Where is it? Replace by mock. That's the one I want. I'm really dependent on auto-completion. Replaced by mock should be a model mock. It should be the sales. Oh no, it should be the resource model mock. So the type is resource model. It's order payment collection, and it's my stub collection. Okay, so now my stub will be used instead of the original. And however, this stub now won't return anything. I'll first have to tell it to actually return order info instance. So I'll just go ahead and stop that too. Mage. So you can see this is just the model matching this collection. And now I want to take care that the collection returns my stub payment info instance whenever it's iterated over. So whenever a method is iterated over, it will a collection. It actually calls the method getIterator. And whenever now getIterator is called, it will return an array. Actually, no. What it will return is an array iterator. Turn value new iterator. And it will use only one item, which is the stub payment info instance. Here, this is the implementation from Varian data collection, where getIterator right here does return the same thing, right? So here you can see the original collection getIterator returns a new array iterator with the items array from the collection. So here we're just overriding that to return our dummy here. So I'll rerun the test to see where we're at. We're not quite there yet. So the next thing is invalid argument applied for each in get payments collection as payment. So something's not quite right yet. What is get payments collection? Get resource model. Is there a typo here? Nope. Replaced by mock. I just want to check I specified the correct replacement type. There we go. Stub order payment data. I rerun the test. No, it doesn't quite. Like that yet. So I want to see what happens here. Let's run the debugger. So this is pretty much, you know, an experiment. So things can go wrong. Get payment collection. So now it should be instantiating. Ah, yeah, I can see. So here is where the stub now should be instantiated, but set order filter is called, which returns null. Right, so this is another example of method chaining that doesn't quite work out of the box. So this payment is null. So I will have to mock one additional method here. Stub collection expects this any, so it doesn't care if it's called or not. The method set order filter will the else. Okay, so now I rerun the test, and yes, we're further. I can see that already. Call to member function get block type on non-object. So let's see what that does. In the order class here, it calls get payment, get info block. Get payment returns the payment info instance. We did that. Get info block now called get method instance and get info block type. So we'll have to somehow take care that get method instance actually returns the expected result. And for that reason, what I want to do is now inside of, where's my test? Here it is. Now I want to take care that my stub payment info, this one here, returns the actual method instance. Now, stub payment info expects this return value stub payment instance of a Mage payment model method abstract. And we could, of course, now choose any kind of real method, but well, what we need is basically any class that implements the abstract method, and PHP Unit provides us with a capability to implement like a mock or stub of a abstract class. I'll just delegate that to make it a little, to keep it a bit smaller. And add that method. So here I'll say this for abstract class, Mage payment model. Yes, that's right. So the difference with mocks for abstract classes is that by default, they simply pass all methods to the parent class. So they do not replace all the methods with stub methods that return null. Let's see what we have now. So cannot retrieve the payment method code. So if I see where that error happens, that actually happens in the abstract class where getCode has a check implemented that the payment method code is set. So I don't want that to actually happen. For that reason, what I'll say is here, I'll say stub payment expects this any method getCode value, I'll just say null. This probably won't make any difference because once again, by default for abstract class, it doesn't actually replace the original methods. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use all the additional arguments here that can be specified for get abstract class, so I can tell it to replace the mocked that one method here. So I'm going a bit faster, so I don't want to run out of time. So that's why I'm not explaining too much now. I'll be happy to go on for questions. We're almost there. So I want to say the mocked methods is getCode, and now I'll simply pass these arguments as additional arguments to constructor arguments. I don't care about the mocked class name. I don't care about the original constructor. It can be call original clone, call autoload, and now my mocked methods that contains the getCode method. So now that check in the original class won't take place anymore, and I can see no recipient address found in message header. Notice undefined property standard class args. Let's see where we're at in the test. So right now, it basically, we have the mock mailer, but we're not yet actually specifying that the mock mailer is used. So the same thing we did here, replaced by mock, we still have to do that with the mock mailer we create here. So this time we're replacing a model. The type is model. It's a core and it's my mock mailer. So this matches the instantiation from this class right here, core email mailer, made get model. So that now will be replaced with my mock. So if I now rerun it, my mailer no longer is a real class. Okay, that just looks like a small bug in the test. Set templates params. Actually, no, something different must be going on here. Because the method isn't being called. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and check that the mailer here actually is my mock instance. It is not my mock instance. So something must be wrong in my replacement. Replaced by mock, core email template mailer, mock mailer. Well, actually, that looks okay. Should be right there. It's replaced by get model. Okay, I'll just go ahead and actually walk through the instantiation to see what's wrong. And first step is step in here, get config, get model instance. Here we go. This replace. I'll inspect the replace instance creation array. Oh, it's not registered. It's only one the resource model is registered there. So somewhere in my test, I still got it's replaced by mock isn't doing what it expects. Oh yeah, of course. The test is already happening before I'm actually replacing it with the replacement class. Too bad. Okay, so now let's run it again. And failed asserting that array contains customer group. Okay, so now if I add that customer group here to my class, here we go, it should actually succeed. So what I had to do test, yeah, okay, so now the test is complete. So the things I had to mock in order to make that work, for one was I mocked the actual email template mailer for two reasons. For one, because I then could use it to assert that the variable is set on it, and second, to disable the actual sending of the mail. And because the whole send new order email method is so coupled, I also had to replace the payment info instances collection at instance and the payment method, so that doesn't throw an error. Okay, so that will be one version. We're almost through this time, unfortunately. My idea now replace this class and use a mockery to show a different, slightly more readable variation. So this isn't quite as weird. Let's see. Are there any comments or questions right now?
Nope.
Nope. No questions. Okay. I don't know. What do you think, Fabrizio? Should I just go ahead and complete the example with mockery, or is it enough?
Well, it depends on how much time you want to spend with that. If I think it could be interesting to dedicate like more time to see how mockery works
We
instead of
could
trying
do.
to put that in?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it'll be a while till I'll be able to go back into there and do, another session here. So if you don't mind going 5 minutes over, I don't think it will be more because basically the test is now in place. I just have to replace all the, the method calls to create the mocks with the other one. Is that okay?
Sure, yeah.
Since
Yeah.
there don't seem to be any questions, I'll just go ahead and
Yeah.
complete that then. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll copy the PHP unit order test to mockery order. So I can create the alternative variation of that class here. And I'll install mockery. For that purpose, the easiest way to do that is this is just the only require there, mockery dev master. And I'll composer install mockery. Two things need to be done in order so we can use mockery inside of the test. And that is, first of all, I'll have to include the autoload file from that composer created. And for now, because it's just this one test where I want to have it, I'll just do it in setup before class. Otherwise, we could put it into Bootstrap, of course, too. So I'll say require once the Magento base and one up autoload PHP. And the second thing that mockery does is it needs to tear down mockery close needs to be called in order to finish off any assertions and to clean up a bit. Okay, so now I want to replace the stubbing with mocks created by mockery. So here's the first one inside the main test. That's the mock mailer with the actual assertions. So to create the mock mailer here using mockery, I can use mockery mock. And there are many different options it allows to be specified, but here I just want to say, okay, I want to create a mock of this class. And mockery by default does not replace any methods that you don't explicitly want replaced with stub methods. So here I want to say should ignore missing, which means do not, now it basically is behaving the same way as PHP unit mocks, replacing all methods with a stub. I just want to have one set template params method so I can add my assertions. So here I'll say the mock mailer should receive, then the method name, and it will return using, and now I can specify. Now I can specify the replacement method, the callback. So here's my callback. I can get rid of that. Just need to add the transport class above that. Okay, so this now is all that I need to create my mock mailer using mockery. Right, and I still want to replace it using the PHP unit ecomdev PHP unit functionality. However, here there's one problem that replaced by mock here expects actually a PHP framework mock object. So I'll have to go a bit deeper here. I'll have to say this get app, and I simply still can use the same arguments as before, just a bit of method call before that. Okay, so the next part here would be I want to replace so I can actually mix and match. So at the moment it still should start working. Oh, I'm still running the old test configuration. So I'll just go ahead and create a test run configuration for this test, which is right here. So this is now my mockery test, and yep, we can see it actually works. we can check the assertion is also actually doing what it should. If I now remove the customer group again from my order method that it expects, it will basically tell me, okay, failed asserting that array contains customer group. So that still works. So I'll just go ahead and replace, there are some slight differences in the other parts, like for the abstract class, for example, mockery makes it easier. All I have to do here is I'll also use mockery mock with the abstract class directly, so I don't have to use a different method or anything. And so what I have to replace here is get code. So I'll say stub payment should receive get code and return null. Let's see how that works. And we'll see it doesn't quite yet work because what's missing is should receive get code. It's calling get info. Oh yeah, I know. So the problem is I actually want to tell it to delegate all missing methods to the parent class, like once again behave just as the default PHP unit mocks for abstract classes. And now I'm getting maximum recursion level reached of 100. And if I look at the error message, I can see it's calling set store, set store, set store. So I'll just go ahead and add that setter to the list of method. And this time I don't want to return null, I want to return self. And the next replacement I have to do, which is the last one here, if I remember correctly, was get store. So set store and get store both need to be replaced with dummy methods, so I don't run into this problem with magic getters. Okay, so that takes care of the stub method, and we can compare this abstract model mock to the PHP unit version, which looks like this. So you can choose which one is nicer, the top one or the bottom one. There's one last part that we're not yet mocking with the mockery, and that is the collection and the payment info stub. So the payment info stub can be mocked just like the rest. And there actually is a very nice shorthand for specifying replacements. If you don't need a lot of additional logic, you can simply specify an array as a second argument. Stub payment method. Okay, so that's the mock here. And the final one would be the collection. And then we're done. So almost there. Mockery mock. And I need to I want to ignore them any missing method calls, and my stub collection should receive set order filter and return self, and it should receive get iterator, and return the new array iterator. And the final step now would be to change the replacement app get config replace instance creation. Oops, slipped outside of the actual method code. Okay, so this will take care of almost is deleted does not exist. Right, so the problem here is that we're not ignoring missing methods yet on the payment info instance. And here we go. Okay, so yeah, thanks for sticking with me. Well, 10 minutes now for mock variation of this, but hopefully that will be useful. You can choose what you prefer. I think it's a lot more readable using the mockery type of mocking as a library. However, normally, to be honest, once you're familiar with the PHP unit version, there is no functional benefit of one over the other. Both have to work around Magento's magic setters and getters, but once again, once you're familiar with it, it's not that much of a deal. I don't find a big benefit, except the original initial learning curve. Yeah, that's kind of all for me right now.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was a great example of like how easily you get into nesting those mocks into each other, and it's always so much fun to watch your live code. You're super efficient writing code, so that was super interesting. Thank you very much for that.
Unfortunately, I had to go a bit fast because yeah, I don't know. Oh well, it's an experiment, so I hope watching with the video, it can take more time. And please feel free to ask any questions on Twitter or on yeah, same with Menta, I guess, right? So if you have any questions, yeah, please. This is basically about talking and about interacting. So
I do have a question, actually.
Yeah.
It's me, David. Was there a difference between using like a standard class object passed to the callback versus using an array passed by reference or something?
Okay, good question. Basically, I must admit that I've tried using transport objects just as an array inside of a closure, and as long as I've tried using static arrays inside of a method, and they didn't work. They had to use an object to make it work with PHP. I can show you an example of that code if you want to. So I tended to just using classes, standard class, simply because they kind of always work, regardless if the method leaves scope or not. That was for a different project, actually, outside of code, outside of the Magento, nothing Magento specific. Okay. So probably it would actually work. I mean, we could just try it out. That's probably best. So here I have the transport as an array. Args. Right, that should do the trick.
And you probably have to put an and in front of the use transport.
You got a bug in your code there.
Yeah, I can see something's wrong.
You took away transport and left args. It should have been you take away args and left transport.
Oh yeah, right. Thanks. Okay, transport. Let me see. Okay. Now if I pass it by reference. Yeah, as long as you use by reference, it works. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done that in some of our code actually for tests. That exact thing.
Okay. Right. Right. Okay. Well, yeah, fine. That works. So I prefer using object. In this case, I really don't like using the pass by reference operator anymore. But that just, just personal preference. It doesn't really matter. So cool. Yeah. Plus, I did still, that was in a different project and a pandoc filters project. So that I don't want to go into that now. Different stuff. Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Good. Are there other questions? Okay, doesn't look like it. Yeah,
Cool.
another teaser. I mean, one of the alternative concepts to mocks is actually using fixtures. Well, trying to basically solve the same problem in a very different way. And Lee is going to tell us a little bit about fixtures in one of the future episodes. How to use ecomdev's feature to, basically fake data to make those objects be real from a Magento point of view and work with them. Looking forward to that one too.
Sorry to chime in one more time, just to avoid any misunderstanding about this example. I do not believe it's the ideal ways to mock out everything. I didn't actually right now want to make sure that everybody understands. Ooh. Alan?
Yep.
There's a bit of feedback coming from you.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that. Okay, so I just want to make sure there's no misunderstanding here. I really believe it's not necessary to mock out everything here, right? This was just an example, but that, to do this in this way, there might be different ways to test it too. Like really checking the email that gets created, instead of mocking all of that, just replacing the Zend mailer instance and checking the content of the actual template and everything. Different test, different purpose, but it's definitely very helpful to know how to mock things and not being limited by not being able to use those tools. So yeah, okay, that's all from here.
Okay, thank you. Alan, were you trying to say something?
No, not really.
Okay. Good. So I think that was great. I'm looking forward to the next episodes. We don't have like a real schedule yet, which topics we're going to do, but I think we'll try to stick to this to Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific time, to make that kind of a weekly thing. So I'm not sure what topics are next, but we'll announce that on Twitter. And so stay tuned. Come back and rewatch that video, or if you missed that in the first place, take your time and look at it, and feel free to reach out to us via email or Twitter even after this live broadcast ends. Okay, so thanks everybody for listening and for being here with us on the live hangout, and have a great day, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.